Greetings, loyal subjects of the Imperium of Man. I am Librarian Elias of the Adeptus Astartes. I am creating a series of recordings with the intent of educating the general populace of the dangers of the galaxy. All of this information comes from the Lexicanum provided to me by the Adeptus Mechanicus. I will be reading verbatim from their archives. This recording will cover one of the few allies the Imperium has, a space marine known as Rylanor, the Ancient of Rites. Rylanor was the Ancient of Rites in the Emperor's Children's Space Marine Legion during the Great Crusade. Having served with the Great Crusade since its beginning, Rylanor was eventually wounded in battle with the Eldar some decades before the beginning of the Horus Heresy. Rylanor's life was saved by his conversion into a dreadnought. He continued to serve in his position as Ancient of Rites after his internment. As the Ancient of Rites, Rylanor held responsibility for overseeing the progression of the Emperor's Children recruits from novice to one of Fulgrim's chosen, and was also said to be able to perceive a lie the moment it was told. Normally stationed aboard the Emperor's Children vessel, Andronius, Rylanor maintained the Hall of Rites located there. Considered to be a member of the inner circle of the Emperor's Children, Rylanor was one of several senior officers who attended upon the Primarch and executed his commands. It was him that Captain Saul Tarvitz petitioned for reassignment immediately prior to the ill-fated drop on Isfahan 3. Rylanor agreed to the request and transferred Tarvitz from combat duties to a staff placement aboard the Andronius. Rylanor himself was dispatched with the loyalist elements of the Emperor's Children to Isfahan 3, and was subsequently betrayed alongside his cohorts. Sometime after the betrayal was revealed, Tarvitz, who had now arrived on the surface and assumed command, reportedly ordered Rylanor to guard an underground hangar of some sort. The Dreadnought warrior was not seen again during the battle, and was presumed dead by the traitorous victors. Thousands of Terran years later, after the events that occurred during the Horus Heresy, a trio of heretic Astartes from the Thousand Sons Traitor Legion, Marshid and Akhtar, led by the Chaos Sorcerer Malin Vistario, were dispatched by their demon Primarch, Magnus the Red, from Solitarius, the so-called Planet of the Sorcerers, to investigate a distress signal that had come from a long-dead world. The message repeated itself over and over, with a simple phrase, ambiguous yet portentous: "The Ancient awaits." The investigating Thousand Sons arrived on the dead world and traversed a series of subterranean catacombs until they reached a hangar with a small spacecraft located at the center of it that had been destroyed by tons of fallen masonry. Beside the craft, Vistario spotted the shattered outline of an ancient contempted dreadnought. Dust and ash lay thick on its adamantium sarcophagus, the color of its armor all but obscured. One leg had been sheared from its body, and its left side buckles inward so deeply that the flesh within was surely dead. Its weapon arms, a Kia's pattern assault cannon, and a splay-clawed power fist were aimed skywards, as if this ancient hero of the Space Marine Legions had sought to vent his fury towards the heavens with the last of his existence. The dreadnought lay upon something half buried in the rock of the cavern floor, its surface burned and unrecognizable. More cables snaked from the small, wrecked spacecraft that were hooked into the object's underside, as well as to the war machine. A strange device was connected to the dreadnought. It appeared to be a monstrous hybrid of musical instrument and an apparatus of excruciation designed by a sadistic lunatic. Its colors were faded, but it once had been vividly painted and elaborately ornamented, and it still thrummed with energy. As Vistario grew closer and sought for a way to disconnect the device, which was the source of the distress beacon the Thousand Sons had received, the ancient and not-so-dead dreadnought awakened and wrapped its massive power fist around the body of Brother Marshid. The Dreadnought also aimed its mighty assault cannon at Vistario, before pausing and declaring that they were not the ones the Dreadnought sought. Unaware of the wider events that occurred during the Horus Heresy, the Dreadnought did not know of the 15th Legion's fall to chaos. Realizing this, Vistario quickly played along and told the Dreadnought that their Legion still endured. But the Dreadnought, though barely clinging to life, knew evasion when he heard it. The sorcerer then explained that he would not like the truth. When Vistario inquired as to the identity of the Dreadnought, the Ancient explained that he was he who remembers. I am the Ancient of Rites. Like a thunderbolt, a sudden flash of prescience swept through Vistario as he came to the startling realization that the war-racked dead world above them was none other than Isvan III. The site where War Master Horus had cut the loyalist shaft from his traitor legions and first revealed his allegiance to chaos. The Dreadnought was none other than Ancient Rylanor of the Emperor's Children. Vistario knew the name. The only mention of the Dreadnought's fate came from that most unreliable of narrators, Lucius the Swordsman, who claimed Saul Tarvitz spoke of an underground hangar the Dreadnought was rumored to have found. When Vistario asked Rylanor why he had not escaped, the Dreadnought explained that he had attempted to do so, but the shockwave of Isvan III's death went deeper and lasted longer than any could have foreseen. The roof of the cavern collapsed, destroying the spacecraft in the hangar, trapping him there. Vistario glanced at the strange device hooked to the interior of the wrecked starship and inquired as to the device's purpose. Rylanor explained it was a sonic weapon of some kind. A handful of his former brothers, among the Emperor's children, had found the hangar and sought to kill him. They failed, but the power of their weapons crippled him and left him mortally wounded. Vistario deduced that Rylanor had managed to reshape the sonic weapon into a distress beacon of some kind, but the Dreadnought chuckled at the ignorance of Vistario's observation, for the device was no mere distress beacon. It was a lure. When Vistario asked what the device was intended to lure, a silken voice answered, "For me. Isn't that right, Rylanor?" The device had been modified to draw the demon Prince Fulgrim back to Isvan III, and it had worked. Without warning, Fulgrim, now a demon prince of Slaanesh, suddenly appeared from the shadows. Rylanor was horrified and disgusted by his former Genesire's appearance. The Primarch was an abomination, even by the standards of warriors who had seen their own Gene-father hideously changed by the transformative energies of the warp. The demon prince mocked the Ancient's damaged appearance. Fulgrim asked the Ancient of Rites why he had summoned him to this long-dead place. The Dreadnought managed to push his carapace upright into a sitting position, revealing the object that had lain beneath it for millennia. Humming power cables ran from Rylanor's sarcophagus to an open control panel. Vistario felt his blood chill as he finally understood what it was. Rylanor asked Fulgrim if it had been a millennia since the events of the Isvan III atrocity. The demon Primarch replied that it indeed had, and mocked Rylanor for all the time it had wasted and all the glory unearned, all the victories denied, had he still served with the ranks of the Third Legion. Rylanor gave another grating bark of laughter in response. Rylanor explained that if a millennia had passed since the Isvan III atrocity, then he had a millennia to perfect his weapon. It was at that moment that the demon Primarch realized the true nature of the object that the Dreadnought's body had obscured, as Rylanor sent an activating pulse of energy to the armed warhead of an unexploded virus bomb. Brother Akhtar utilized his Reptora cult powers and summoned forth a kinetic kind shield in order to contain the explosion. Though his ability to maintain such a barrier was tested to its limits, enraged, Fulgrim attacked Rylanor, enhanced by his Slaanesh-gifted powers. Fast as Quicksilver, the demon Primarch crushed the Dreadnought's assault cannon and effortlessly ripped the arm off the Dreadnought's body. Fulgrim used one of his alien blades to cut into the outer case of the Dreadnought's carapace. Reaching within, he breached Rylanor's sarcophagus and ripped out what was left of the Legionary's mortally wounded form. Fulgrim offered Rylanor the opportunity to return to the Emperor's children and accept the gifts of the Dark Prince and walk at his side, clad once again in flesh. Fulgrim told Rylanor that he could be anything, as the Demon Primarch had the power to sculpt him into any form he desired. Vistario could sense Rylanor's horror at this last violation, an inescapable destiny where he could become that which he hated most. The Dreadnought did not care whether he lived or died, only that Fulgrim went with him. Rylanor roared his defiance. Never. All we have left between us is that we will die together. I am Rylanor of the Emperor's children, Ancient of Rites, venerable of the Palatine host, and proud servant of the Emperor of mankind, beloved by all. I reject you now and always. The Thousand Sons were at a loss of what they should do. To let matters come to a head, or to intervene on Rylanor's behalf. Vistario felt Fulgrim's infinite malice, his cruel enjoyment of Rylanor's anguish, and the helplessness of the Thousand Sons. The Primarch of the Emperor's children reveled in his overwhelming pride, a trait Magnus the Red had more than once told Vistario that had been present before his fall to chaos. More than anything, stronger than even Fulgrim's spite, Vistario felt Rylanor's pride and honor, the unbending core of greatness that had sent him against his brothers and had seen him descend into obsessive madness. Trapped beneath the surface of a dead world, Vistario took the measure of Fulgrim, seeing nothing worthy in him. His fellow warriors felt the moment his decision was made. Vistario raised his bolter and fired a mass reactive shell into the back of Brother Aktar's skull. The Raptoras had exploded, and with his death, the psychic force holding back the warhead's detonation ended. Once more, all life was burned away on Ispan 3. First, by the organic decay brought by the Life-Eater virus, and then by the planetary conflagration that followed as all of that organic matter ignited. It took much less time for the Life-Eater virus to burn out on Ispan 3's second death, yet, not long after, a shadow emerged from the Undercity, a serpentine outline of cinders, held together by a web of demonic energy. Not even the viral toxins wrought by an ancient imperial silence could unmake that which the darkest powers of the warp had raised up. The Phoenician's form was already weaving itself anew, but his soul was broken, for no pain, no hurt, and no injury could wound such a being, as much as the denial of its own imagined magnificence. That simple truth was Ancient Rylanor's final victory. Fulgrim had ultimately survived, though his pride was forever wounded. This concludes the information regarding Rylanor. More in-depth information regarding him will be recorded at a later date. This is Librarian Elias.